It's a revisiting of sorts tonight as we catch up with Gretchens Will on the 9 o'clock news local edition here on Rock 93.7. We have in with us Lindsay, who's pretty much, you're just Gretchens Will.
Pretty much, yeah.
You actually do all the instruments?
Most of them.
Okay, most of the instruments. You do call in backup help every once in a while for certain things.
Yeah, for bass and drums mostly.
But you compose the songs, you write the songs, you get them put together. You even put together your own studio to do this.
Yeah. It's not much of a studio. It's just my computer, a USB interface, and a preamp and a mic, basically. But it's all I need to get it done.
It's all you need to get it done, but it's more than you knew to get done in the beginning.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't really know what I was doing in the beginning, but my producer on my first album, Ken Stringfellow, really helped me with the equipment that I needed to acquire to make good quality recordings.
So you kind of knew the music side, and then you learned the technical side, and now you're onto your second album.
Yep. And this one is self-produced. So, I guess by default, since I didn't hire a producer this time, that means it's self-produced because there's nobody else.
We're going to talk about the obstacles that you overcame in the self-producing of the second album, what your plans are down the road, and a whole lot more as we discuss all of that tonight with Gretchens Will on the 9 o'clock news local edition here on Rock 93.7. Tonight in studio, we have Gretchens Will with us on the 9 o'clock news local edition on Rock 93.7. Lindsay is really, I say Gretchens Will, but you really are the driving force behind it.
Yeah.
Last time we spoke with you, you had the album completed, you had done that, and you were planning to get out and maybe do a little bit of this and that. How has things been since we last talked?
Well, it's been really exciting to learn more about every aspect of the music industry. It's been just a big learning experience. I really didn't know what I was getting into and how difficult it would be to do a lot of the promotional things. Deciding to do a second album was just purely because I wanted to be recording again. I learned so much about what works and what doesn't work with the first album, and I was looking forward to doing it again the second time.
It is a learning curve whenever you get out and start sharing your music, and I think you had the chance, after we talked to you, you kind of went on and you've focused a lot on the internet side as far as getting your music out there, and I think you've talked to a few other places besides us since the last time.
Yeah, really, when you're not someone who does a lot of live shows or any touring at all, the only way that you know how to reach people, really, in my case, is through social media and things like that. So that's how I can know that people are listening. And, when I get a message or an email or a new like on Facebook or a message on Twitter or something from someone who stumbled on my music somewhere, that's how I get to interact with people, because I'm not doing shows and meeting people in person. But the nice thing about it is that can happen anywhere in the world. I mailed some CDs to someone in the Czech Republic not too long ago, so that was kind of a nice thing. I never dreamed that anybody in the Czech Republic would be listening to my music, and Australia and the UK and stuff like that. So, for somebody that's not touring to those areas, that's pretty nice to know that someone there is listening.
If they follow you on Facebook, you do post some of the things that you get from time to time. I know you've had some press articles that you've had published about you as far as the music you're recording. Yeah.
Every time there's an interview or a review, I'll post something.
They can keep up with you on Facebook, but you've also got the website and stuff like that they can do. And Kickstarter. That's how you kind of got around to doing this album, wasn't it?
I did do a crowdfunding campaign that, it helped out part of the way. That the financial side is always a huge challenge when it comes to recording, and it was very helpful this time. It wasn't on Kickstarter, it was on a platform called Tilt, where you can set your goal amount, but even if you don't reach your goal amount, you can still use whatever you did raise. So that was kind of an interesting experience. It was fairly successful. I didn't meet the goal, but it was enough to get me started and to convince me that I probably ought to go ahead and finish.
And you came up with some interesting incentives on that. I think I want to touch on those, and we'll do that a little bit later, but I think I would like to also get some of your music going, too.
Okay.
Give them a chance to hear some of the newer stuff that you've worked up. Invisible Thief was like the first thing that you shared off of what you had been working with.
Yes, it was the first single. Actually, it was released on November 27th, if I remember correctly, and that was something new this time. I didn't release any singles on my first album, and I thought it would help build interest this time if I released a little bit ahead of time before the album was even completed.
How did this one come together?
The recording, I recorded acoustic demos of everything. because that was one of the campaign incentives, was that anybody that contributed to the campaign would get the acoustic demos as well as the album when it came out. So I recorded an acoustic demo. I had a friend play bass. His name is Phil Jerapu, and I had the drummer from the first album, Ira Elliott of Not a Surf, played again for me on this album. And it was all done remotely, sharing files over the internet, which is how the entire album was completed.
It's Invisible Thief. It's Gretchen's Will on the 9 o'clock news local edition on Rock 93.7. After the first album completed, moved on to the second album. And tonight, we're finding out about that with Gretchen's Will on the 9 o'clock news local edition on Rock 93.7. I have Lindsay in with me. Lindsay, where do you call home?
I live in Westmoreland, Tennessee. You know,
it's a little place from here.
Yeah. What, about an hour and a half from Cookeville, I guess.
As far as fitting in with the grand scheme of things, you wouldn't think of international whenever you think of Westmoreland.
No.
But in your case, that is the way it is, because your music has reached out. You've kind of gone with the internet thing, and you've got a few stations that you've gotten your songs onto. And I think one of the things that helped push that was not only what you've done on Facebook, but the whole reaching out through social media and trying to focus on getting a little funding going for that second album. You gave special incentives to get the excitement about it. What were some of those incentives?
Actually, other than just the album itself, which I treated it at first like, oh, it's just going to be a pre-order for the album. People that contribute, or it's just a pre-order. But then I was like, well, maybe I should do a little more and a little more and a little more. So I threw in the acoustic demos. I did custom cover song recordings where, you know, if someone chose a cover song for me to record, I would do that.
What was the most outlandish cover request that you got?
Well, probably, I love this one though. This was bizarre, but a band Guided by Voices, a song called The Goldheart Mountaintop Queen Directory. It's a very bizarre song, but I love it. I love Guided by Voices. And, you know, it was an old college friend of mine that requested that one.
So they kind of knew it was probably in your wheelhouse. Did you get anybody pick a song that you were just not comfortable doing?
No, I guess not. You know, they were all kind of fun challenges. It may not have been something I would have ever thought of doing myself.
Did that kind of, after having those choices handed to you, did it kind of guide you in thinking, maybe I should start adding that into my writing?
Well, it was the song that I mentioned a minute ago, the Guided by Voices cover, was such a fun experiment in different sounds. Like I was trying to make it just an acoustic demo, but I ended up doing some crazy things in the production of it, you know, trying to make it sound more lo-fi than it really was. That sort of experimentation with the recording side was a learning experience. Every time I record a song, I learn something new about recording. So that was just one more example of let's try some of these techniques when I'm doing my own material.
As far as the producing the technical side, I could see where that would make a difference. As far as taking pen to paper, sitting down and writing your new material, how did that factor in?
I don't know. I guess it probably wasn't a significant songwriting influence. I think my songwriting was kind of changing anyway. From the first album to the second album, I think there's a pretty big difference. And it was just part of me maturing and writing about different things that are important to me now that weren't when I was, 20.
I think the last time we talked to you and with the first album, you had some songs on there that you'd had for a while and had gone back and taken a look at with kind of different eyes. Do you feel like your eyes continue to keep changing with each song? Yeah,
absolutely. It was weird on the first album to me to be singing some of the songs that I hadn't thought about in 10 to 15 years. And I could sort of treat them almost like they weren't even my songs anymore because I was so far removed from them. But these on the second album are very current. I wrote them all within the past year. So they feel a lot more personal and relevant now.
We're going to talk some more about what else is on this album, get to another one of the songs as we continue our conversation with Gretchen's Will tonight on the 9 o'clock news local edition on Rock 93.7. From songwriting to record producing, she's started to cover quite a few different grounds. We're talking with Lindsay tonight of Gretchen's Will, the 9 o'clock news local edition here on Rock 93.7. We could be talking with you. If you'd like to be on the show, it's not that hard to do. Go to the website, all the details you need about submitting your music and having a chance to sit down and have a conversation too. That's up at the website there at rock937online.com. You've got your own website.
Yes.
Where you keep your music up there, and you, of course, do the Facebook thing. And the Twitter thing, does all of that overwhelm as far as keeping up with social media?
It very much does. I guess Facebook more so than anything else. Twitter just sort of, I don't know. I don't really get it. I try to use it, but I don't use it as often as Facebook, definitely, because Facebook, I feel like I'm making more personal connections with people. And, when I can tell when people are responding and liking things and commenting on things and sending me messages. And it can be overwhelming to just keep up with what's going on, just to stay on top of everything.
You used a lot of the connections that you made through there to kind of help, well, as we talked about earlier, kind of fund the album, get things going. You got some requests through there, and you posted little videos along the way to kind of give updates and progress reports, as it were. Having done that, do you feel like that's the way to continue, or are you thinking of going in a different direction?
I definitely think that's the way I'm going to continue. There's been a lot of really positive response to the things that I've been doing over the past few months. It seems like the stuff that I would post about the album coming up would get people interested, whereas I wasn't doing that with the first album. I had barely even started using social media at that time, so I didn't realize that the little teasers and announcements that you can make along the way, can get people more interested and involved in the process. They feel like, they're kind of going through it with you. Like one of the videos that I made recently was a kind of a mini documentary about recording, and it was the process of recording one of the songs that's on this album, behind the scenes, how I do it in my studio, working with other people that are in their own home studios. And it just shows in about 10 minutes the process from demo to the final product, how that works. And a lot of people just really were very responsive to that.
You reached out to Ken Stringfellow of the Posies.
For the first album, yeah.
For the first album. And he kind of guided you a little bit in getting things set up for your own production, trying to walk you through how to get this going and get that going. Now that you know all that, are you returning it? Are you paying it forward with other people as far as getting them set up?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, I would be glad to help. I still feel like I'm a complete beginner, though. When I make that video, I was thinking the whole time, is anybody going to watch this thinking this is a how-to? I hope not, because it's just the way that I do it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the correct way or the best way. But yeah, I would be glad to help anybody that has questions.
Given any thought to maybe producing somebody else's music?
It's crossed my mind, but I live in kind of a remote area. It's not really like a place where people are going to go to.
Of course, there's Dropbox and there's different ways that.
Oh, sure, yeah. On the way that I do it remotely, yeah, I collaborate with people already. I'll play things for their recordings.
Of course, your main focus here recently has been the new album.
Yes.
You've got another track on there, Younger, every year.
Yep.
Is that how you're feeling now with this?
Oh, no. It's actually kind of I don't know if ironic is the right word, but the song says it's in a world that's getting younger every year, which obviously it's not. But it's sort of like a comment you might make to yourself about, well, I can't possibly be getting older. That's not possible. It's everybody else that's just getting younger. It's my perspective is definitely changing as I get older and looking at things differently than I used to.
It is Younger every year. It's Gretchen's Will on the 9 o'clock news local edition on Rock 93.7. We've gone over the first album, we've talked about the second album, and we've talked about quite a few things tonight with Gretchen's Will on the 9 o'clock news local edition here on Rock 93.7. I don't think we've touched on how they can find you online. I mentioned that you have a website. What is that?
It's gretchenswheel.com.
Well, that was tricky.
Yeah.
I didn't know where we were going with that, but yeah, gretchenswheel.com. And of course, you've got links up there to your Facebook, your Twitter. We talked about you using those things. You post quite a few things on Facebook.
Right.
Do you get out and play anywhere? Are you doing the acoustic shows yet? Or
really, I haven't done a show in over a year at this point. I had considered doing some shows, and I've been asked to do some shows, but I've passed on a few opportunities just because I kind of don't really want to do the solo acoustic thing very much because I think my songs sound better with a full band, but I've never gotten around to putting together a backing band. So it's not been a priority for me. I'm sure it would be great.
Short of having a couple people that pitch in to pick up some instruments, that's as far as your backing's gone.
Right, yeah. Bass and drums are my major shortcomings, so that's where I need the most help.
Is that on the long-term list, or is it just not a priority?
It could be. It could be. I wouldn't rule it out.
Well, I would tell you where you could go to see her live, but I think the best place is just to look online. Up at Facebook. And the album, how can they get their hands on this?
It should be iTunes and Amazon and Spotify and all of the places that you would expect. And it will be on CD, which can be found on Bandcamp. But
Simplest way is just hit up GretchensWill.com. It's got links to all of that.
Yeah.
So you don't have to look too far. We look forward to hearing the rest of that album. It's Gretchen's Will. Thank you, Lindsay, for talking with us.
Thank you for having me.
It's the 9 o'clock news local edition on Rock 93.7.